Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the regularly scheduled Town of Wenham Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, November 5th, 2019. By the way, our town clerk asked me to put that in there because she's researching the last 20 years worth of minutes and couldn't quite identify some of them. Anyway, welcome, everybody. As we begin most meetings, we're going to welcome public input for items that are not on the agenda. Okay. As usual, we don't even want to getting up. Now we go to announcements. And by the way, I want to announce that this is the first meeting where we're going electronic. Other boards and committee I've been on have been electronic for the last 10 or 12 years, but we now have our agendas and material on iPads, and that so if we are a little hesitant tonight and we're a little discombobbled, it's new to us, and so please be with us. Bear with us. And be with us too. Both. So number one, we're seeking letters of interest for our Wenham representative for the Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School Committee. I guess we have one representative.
Correct.
And that,
Yep.
Who was the last person?
Bill.
Bill Nichols.
Yes.
Has he resigned or been asked if he wants to be reappointed?
We've made...
I know his term's up.
His term's up. We've made a few different attempts to reach him, and we just haven't gotten...
So we're assuming he does not want reappointment.
You might see me on that. I know a little bit more in the background.
Well, submit a letter.
Yeah, he'll have to contact you if he wants to.
Reached out, let me just...
Didn't mean to hijack the appointment.
Oh, okay.
I have.
Okay,
Oh, on the...
no problem.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to take command of this meeting again.
Good idea.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay. Next, we have the 2019 Purple Heart Trail. Please sit down. Ken and Wynn, we're in a meeting right now. You can take your conversation outside. Okay. We have the 2019 Purple Heart Trail 10K and Fun Run at the Paddon Homestead, Sunday, November 10th. Veterans Day Remembrance Ceremony at Veterans Memorial, Monday, November 11th at 11 a.m. The next one everyone really is going to pay attention to. We have a loose leaf collection that begins Tuesday, November 12th. In my neighborhood, I've already seen people who have had their leaves out, and then hopefully it won't snow out like it did a couple of years ago and been out there for 2 months. Next, we have a lunch and learn at the Council of Aging, Town Government, Thursday, November 14th at 11:30 a.m. We have a, okay. We have a public hearing notice, scenic tree removals. Excuse me, Thursday, November 14th at 7:30 p.m. We have a bunch of trees we're going to be identifying we want to remove. Is that the idea?
Yeah, Dodgers Row, Lodge Row, and Cherry Street.
Yeah, okay.
Trees are labeled.
I have followed up on your question. I'll give an answer later on, by the way.
Oh, the trees are tagged already?
Yeah, the trees will be labeled for easy identification, and a complete list of trees can be, trees to be removed can be obtained on the town website and the town clerk's office.
Yeah, actually, on the walk I have called the Tom Tanos Walk, because it's on Cherry Street, there's a couple of notices from our tree warden on that on a couple of the trees and indicate that there's a public hearing and so forth. So I don't know how effective they are, but I stopped and looked at one of them today. Next, we have a winter parking ban effective November 15th through March 31. And Anthony, what are the hours of the winter park ban?
It's overnight, so it restricts overnight parking effective November 15th through March 31st, 2000.
Yeah, but what does overnight mean? Is that 6 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 4 p.m.?
Midnight to
It's midnight.
Midnight to 6 a.m.
It's midnight to 6 a.m.
Yes.
I have people parking their cars
Between
on my
midnight and
street.
6 a.m., yep.
Okay. Do we have any problems with that in the past? Of course, this is your first year as town administrator.
I
so
haven't heard any.
So
Yeah,
far,
what's your background in this, Anthony?
so far, none.
No, well, this November 15th hasn't come around.
That's what,
Well, you know, that would be,
not only isn't there a ban yet, but there hasn't been any snow. I think we've had the discussion in the past that the police are pretty tolerant unless there's snow and there's a car parked that's blocking the ability to remove the snow.
Yeah.
And
And
then,
they do make an effort
They
to get
do
a hold
try,
of the
right.
owner to have it moved.
Yes, I've heard that in the past.
midnight to 6.
Midnight to 6 a.m., okay. Veterans Committee requests Reach Across America sponsors for December 14th event. So we're, Wen and I are members of the Veterans Committee, and have been seeking, and we've had pretty good support so far for people who want to donate, for us to put wreaths on the graves of the both three, actually it's two, we actually three cemeteries. The old one, the new one, and the one in Fairfield. There's something, is it 450 wreaths? Wayne?
490, 480 to 490 graves this year.
Were you going to get up and speak about this?
Not unless you want to. How much time can I take?
About 2 minutes, go ahead. You can't do it in 2 minutes, can you? No.
Well, I will if you want.
Well, I think it's important.
Bill, somebody in the committee, Bill Wilson, will be sending out,
Why don't you get up the mic, you know the drill.
on the first point, I guess, that fundraising is continuing, and we're asking people to continue to look at the flyers, look at the information, and continue to contribute to the Wreaths Across America. We're getting good returns on it now.
Great.
They can do it online, as the flyer said, or directly to the organization, or we have a box out here in the treasurer's office. So, people have been very generous so far, but we're continuing the fundraising because there's a restricted account just for this. But we'd like to build, want money in there, an endowment type of thing, so that we will have money in the bank for this in the future.
Oh, so in other words, if you go beyond the
Right. I mean,
limits.
that's, the idea is to build up the fund. We're starting from scratch this year, so it's been good. As to the volunteers, on the day of the Wreaths Across America, December 14th, which is done nationally at the same time in the same place, all over the country,
That's right.
what we do is the Veterans Committee requests people who would like to contribute, like to show up and participate in the events, which means that everybody goes out and they place a wreath on the graves of the veterans' graves that are marked. And it's a very solemn, very educational thing for the kids to do this. And as you were there last year, John.
Yes, the weather was very, very accommodating. It was like almost 70 degrees on a December day. That was terrific.
I didn't want to mention the weather, but last year it couldn't have been better. But it's a great, the wreaths are like this. We have those, and we'll have one for every grave, and then we'll divide up the people anybody in town who'd like to participate. Families, kids, we'll have the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts there, and so forth. So there will be information going out specifically on that.
And there was a good turnout last year. If
There
I
was, a
remember.
couple
There was
hundred people, I
probably,
think,
at least
yeah.
200 or 300 people.
Yeah, so we'll have that at least this year, I think.
Thank you, Win. Appreciate it. Next, we're turning over to Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My TA report is in there. It's quite lengthy, 4 pages, and I know you like to be brief, so just a couple of things that I want to touch upon. The FY21 budget, the department submittals are in. We started meetings with them, so that's going to be ongoing for the next couple weeks. Also, more good news is that MassDOT just recently approved the contract for the $150,000 earmark. So it was too late to get it on for this meeting. So that will be on for the 19th. I'm meeting with Bayside Engineering, is that what it is? Yeah, on this week. So we're going to start talking and go over the contract. The contract will be approved by the selectmen next meeting, and we'll be having some movement on the 1A project.
And we're going to be having public hearings on the alternative reconfigurations, let's put it that way. So we will be looking, at a subsequent meeting, we'll be announcing that for public input on the various scenarios that the state is recommending, right, Anthony?
Yes, that's correct. And that's it for right now.
Can I ask a question on something
Sure.
I just glanced on? So the good news, more good news, I guess, relative to the codification project, is that it's in the hands of general code,
Yes.
according to the town clerk's notice here. Maybe this is an unfair question at this point, but is there an expectation that there will be, the results of this will end up on this year's town meeting? A lot of it
They're
requires, right?
hoping that yes.
Portion of it?
Some portion of it.
It's just been a long time coming, and I wanted to anticipate a little bit of what town meeting would be like. Okay, thank you.
At the next meeting, we'll actually have a list of some articles, just to kind of throw by the selectmen, so you'll hear about some things next meeting.
Well, other than a money issue, I can't think of anything more, I won't say controversial, but more people will be interested in finding out exactly what the hell we're going to do, on 1A. And that,
Oh, yeah, that's definitely true.
yeah. Okay.
Lots of people looking for that.
Is that it, Anthony?
That's it. Now, and one other thing that I want to just mention, other I'm just looking at it, we made an offer, and the offer was accepted for the position of Assistant Treasurer Collector, Payroll and Benefits Coordinator. We're thrilled. We had great response. About 20 applications, 20 resumes came in. The person that we selected actually has about 10 years of municipal experience, most recently working in the town of North Andover. So it's nice that we did the pilfering instead of been pilfered. So I got an email that next morning. It said, "Stealing is not nice, Anthony."
You get an attaboy for that one. How's that?
So we're really pleased with, her name is Sherry LeBlanc, and she'll be starting on the 15th, is it, Nikki? 18th? 18th.
So she'll have a little overlap with,
She'll have a week overlap with Patty, and then Patty has agreed to work with her on Fridays during the transition and get her up to speed with some of the payroll issues.
great.
Thank you, Anthony. It's your turn, Catherine.
Okay, I guess I have the consent agenda. There's one change to it, which I'll note in the motion. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve all items in the consent agenda, including A, one-day liquor license request from Kathleen Feldman, Wenham Museum, 132 Main Street, for two different events: the Sleigh Bell Artisan Fair Holiday Party, Friday, November 15th from 5 to 8, and the Sleigh Bell Artisan Fair, Saturday, November 16th from 10 to 4. Appears all the documentation is in place for that. The second item that was on the consent agenda is going to be passed over tonight and put on a later agenda. The third item is minutes from the open session of October 21st, 2019. So that's the motion.
Second. Further discussion?
I'm all set.
I did read about the Polar Plunge fundraiser in the that's today. It'd be over 18, no kids.
Yeah, I think that maybe is going to go away.
Yeah. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, John, appointment requests.
Yes, we have some appointments, 3 or 4, I believe, 3, I think it is.
Great.
Hold on. Jumping back here to, right. Sorry.
Conservation Commission, Ken
Okay.
Whitaker.
Yes, Conservation Commission is our first one. Excuse me. I move that the Board of Selectmen appoint Kenneth E. Whitaker to the Conservation Commission for a term beginning November 5th, 2019, and ending June 30, 2021.
Kenneth F. Whitaker.
Oh, F, I'm sorry, F, right.
He's particular about that, right? I'll second that. Further discussion?
Ken comes to us with a lot of qualifications, engineering, legal, and so forth. I think he's a good fit for the responsibilities, and he's been a long-term resident and served in many other offices as well.
Including a former selectman here.
Correct.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Okay. Thank you, Ken.
One way or the other, you gotta vote yea.
Well, which are you going to ask for? Would you like me to say nay or
Whatever you want to say.
Well, you would usually say nay.
Okay. Interim treasurer collector, John?
Yes.
Donald J.
okay.
Carter?
Yes, I move the Board of Selectmen appoint Donald J. Carter as an interim treasurer collector for a term beginning November 6, 2019, and until the permanent position has been filled.
Forward that to me.
Yes, if you would.
Yeah, please. So, I would expect that the posting will go out tomorrow. Staff has already put that together. I really would expect this position to be filled sometime after the first of the year, because it's 30 days for the advertisement, then we have to do interviews, quite possible second interviews, and we're getting into the holiday season, so Dawn will probably be maybe, I'm thinking 10, 15 hours, somewhere between maybe 10 to 20 hours a week with us. Dawn lives in Hamilton. He is the former treasurer collector for the town of Middleton for 7 years, and prior to that, he was with Ipswich for 6 years as the assistant. Dawn has a great wealth of knowledge in the position. I spoke with the current town manager in Middleton, Andy Sheehan, who gave nothing but rave reviews for Dawn. So I think Dawn will fill that temporary void so we can make sure that we reconcile our bank accounts and have money to pay our bills in the accounts. So
Always helpful.
always helpful. And Dawn is somebody that actually Peter had looked and tapped to possibly help the last time that this position before we hired Patty, but once Patty got here, she was such an expert, we didn't need Dawn. He just came in one day, and Patty was able to really hit the ground running. So spoke with Dawn, sat with him for a while, we talked. I was impressed, and I think that he'll serve us well.
Well, if I might show support for your recommendation, Ira Singer I got to know quite well over the years and have always been very impressed at his leadership and his management in the town of Middleton. And if this fellow has worked under his guides over the years, he must have some very good qualifications. So I think this may be a very good opportunity for us. So thank you, Anthony.
John, you still on?
Oh, we didn't,
Well,
do we vote?
I think,
did we have a second?
Oh,
why don't you move, we vote, John, then we can second it. I'll move it. I move we appoint Donald J. Carter as the interim treasurer collector for the town of Wenham.
I'll second that motion, Jack.
Further discussion?
Just one thing, and I think the motion, and it has to do with the motion. This talks about a term beginning November 6th, until the permanent position has been filled. Our past history has been speckled, varied with open-ended endings. So I might suggest our consideration of something like the earlier of when the permanent position is filled, or some date, March 30th, I don't know what the date is, so that we don't run into a situation of, as we have in the past.
Well, hearing what you're saying, I think that makes some sense, Catherine. But we wouldn't want to start somebody now and then cut them short in, I don't know, December, January. Would we want to put a date of, say, town meeting?
Oh, just pick an arbitrary date like March 31.
Yeah, I think.
April 1st, yeah.
April 1st.
Yeah, I feel, is that a reasonable date? I mean, you expect to have hired someone, hopefully, by April 1st. And if not, I guess we'd have to have another discussion, right?
Yeah, if we don't have somebody hired by April 1st, I'm going to be hitting my head against the wall, so. I would.
Again.
Again, good point, Jack. I would expect that it probably will be January, but to be on the safe side, so we're not sitting here and taking another vote because of maybe a week we missed, I would just say, if you want an end date, pick April 1st.
So the motion would be to appoint him effective November 6, 2019, until the earlier of the date of a permanent person beginning, or April 1st.
Second that.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Jackie, you're not taking minutes?
Catherine's taking them.
Remotely.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Made me nervous, so you're taking them, okay. All of his wisdom we shared tonight might be lost to posterity for, okay.
Yeah, really.
Okay, John, you're still on.
Oh, yes.
Interim Finance Director, John.
Okay. I move that the Board of Selectmen appoint Christopher J. Holak?
T.
Oh,
T.
it says...
Is that Tom?
Jay.
Timothy?
J.
Oh, it's
Thomas.
funny, it says J on it.
Yeah, it does say on the
Yeah,
front
I'm
cover
so-
sheet.
I'm sorry.
It says T and
I just
mine.
read what I saw.
Well, you're looking at the agenda, and I'm
Agenda.
looking at the
Cover
actual
sheet.
motion.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
As
I'm sure
interim
you'll get it.
finance director, effective November 25th, 2019, through June 30, 2020.
I'll second that.
Okay?
Although,
Yeah. All in favor?
Discussion?
well,
Any
can
discussion?
I ask one thing? Or can I
Sure.
make one comment?
Of course.
I don't, just so nobody's worried about this, I don't have an objection, but since we have a later agenda item that talks about a reorganization that I think affects this person, it seems like it might be logical to actually do this appointment after we've had that discussion. Just a thought.
That was Anthony's thing, and I overruled him. I put it on here, so that maybe I shouldn't have done that. I thought we should have the appointments in order.
Well, that's logical from, from having all the appointments together, but this is a bit kind of, it seems like the reorg is kind of a big
Why
deal.
don't we make the motion subject to further discussion when we get to that item then?
Sure,
Otherwise, we might forget it by the time we get there.
always possible. So interim finance director, subject to,
Further discussion and confirmation when we get to item number H.
okay?
Is that satisfactory?
I would, yeah.
Yeah,
Second.
we'll circle back and,
No, we're going to vote for this now, subject to any further amendment to that as a result of our discussion over the discussion of potential regarding town hall staff reorganization. In other words, we're voting for a yes until we vote subsequently differently when we get to item H. Is that too complicated for everyone here?
It's a little complicated.
Well, not for me, it isn't. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Chris, why don't you come up and introduce yourself to the viewing audience, and that
You're the
you got a
quiet
bright
guy
blue
in the
shirt
back
there,
room,
you know, and that,
counting the numbers.
so let people see who you are.
So, Chris Olak, I've been with the town now for just about 3 years. I'm the town accountant presently. I live in Beverly. I love working for the town, and I'm looking forward to really working more with Anthony. I've enjoyed him so far, and I think this is a great opportunity for me, and I look forward to working with the town and getting us in the right moving forward in the right direction where we need to be.
Now, you've been with us how long?
March will be 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And-
Longer than I realized.
yeah, and prior to that, Chris he's got a lot more experience too that he's being shy on. Chris worked for the accounting firm of Powers and Sullivan, who was actually our CPAs. So I don't believe you did Wenham.
I did.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
Yeah.
My 6 years on.
Yeah.
at
So
Powers and
Chris
Sullivan.
was an auditor that actually looked at our books, and then he went to work for the
City of Somerville for 3 years as the internal auditor for the City of Somerville.
and then came here. So Chris has a great wealth of municipal experience, and I think we're real fortunate to have Chris with us.
Great. Thank you for coming to the podium, Chris, and congratulations on your appointment, subject to us discussing item H.
Great. Thank you as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, maybe? Thank you,
You
probably.
like that one, huh? This is advanced agenda management. The next is you, Catherine.
Okay, and just as soon as I can figure out why my iPad is locked, I will be
Need help?
happy to do that. What is it? Let's
It's,
see. Okay, well, I think it's going to be an easy one. I don't think there's a motion. I think we just have a review by Marianne Cannon, who is the Wenham Connects.
Right.
Yeah, I can't, seems to be, yeah, it's locked. It's like frozen.
All right, close it.
All right.
Open it again.
Anyway, we have Marianne Cannon here. She's the chair of Wenham Connects, and she's here tonight to give us a presentation about, I guess, in general, Wenham Connects and what you're up to right now. So that's
Step
easy.
right up,
I didn't even
please.
need a piece of paper or my iPad to figure that one out. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm Marianne Cannon, Chair of Wenham Connects. On behalf of our committee, I extend our appreciation to you. There are just 3 points in our brief presentation. Namely, I wanted to give you the feedback that Selectmen requested from Wenham Connects about how the Board of Selectmen can demonstrate support to the committee, which I thought was a marvelous question last summer. 2, an overview of our progress since June 19, when we were organized in advancing the implementation of the 8 domains in which Wenham Connects is founded, and 3, to gain your support in helping us achieve our goal of communicating to all Wenham residents the charge given to Wenham Connects by your board. And that's going to be primarily, we hope, on the primarily on the
We need to move the slide a little further along.
No, this doesn't have a slideshow.
Presentation,
Not
Jeff.
her, so I shut it off.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
oh, everyone was looking at the revenue section and then listening to her. A little bit of a,
Yeah.
Sorry.
okay.
Are you with me?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Now there's
Anyway,
no distractions on the board. so good.
Okay, thank you, Jack. 3 brief points. One is the feedback. Jack had asked me last summer, how can we, as a Board of Selectmen, be supportive to something in its infantile stage like Wenham Connects? I took that to the committee. It's a wonderful committee. And one idea is extending the appointment of Wenham Connects beyond 6/30/2020 from 1 maybe to 3 years. As you will hear, we have some pretty major projects in the works. 2, collaborate with Wenham Connects in hosting a forum on housing bylaws for residents of Wenham as we seek to make Wenham a place where the older folks can stay in place in the town if they choose to. 3, support of having an idea exchange about enhancing the dementia-friendly aspects of town boards and department heads so that we're all in the know as we go forth. And lastly, support for time spent by town staff toward grant preparation for applications such as to Tufts Healthcare Plan Foundation, due by 1/31/20 on behalf of Wenham Connects projects. For example, the Resource Center, which I will talk about. An additional phone line at COA, this Council on Aging, dedicated to calls from residents about ways Wenham Connects can help if they call. And advertising for Wenham Connect Community Service Day, if approved, and I will mention that. And the second piece tonight is just showing you the domain status. I'm not going to read every word of it, but you have a handout or you have it on your iPad. The domain status that we are implementing so far to date, 11/5/2019. And the last comment is achieving a place for Wenham Connects on the Town of Wenham website, but I've been graciously helped by Jackie and Nikki especially already, and we are on the website, and we've even expanded with a couple of links. So I can just mark that as done. And if you have ideas, certainly you'll tell me. And so the big one is really just the domain status of the ARP domains for an aging-friendly town community, which I understand and that many, many towns are engaging in this all over. The first domain is communication and information. No, I'm going to change that, I'm sorry. It's outdoor spaces and buildings.
That's what we have.
And you can see that under each domain, outdoor spaces and buildings, secondly, housing, thirdly, social participation, fourthly, communication and information, and fifth, community support and health services, transportation, civic participation, employment, and lastly, respect and social inclusion. These are what are handed to us in our charge. There are bulletins, as you can see, and they're all the same to make it easier to understand, because there's a wealth of information in this that I won't go into in all the detail. We have an action plan, for example, for outdoor spaces and buildings. We have a team. That team is Wynn Dodge and Marianne Cannon. We have community stakeholders, which we've started to meet with. That will never be successful unless we have your support and community stakeholders. And then status is exactly what we've done to date. For example, in that committee, trail mapping project, which we started not started, but we're working with Missy and Jackie on that. And then I had the good conversation to speak with, these are all names that are fairly new to me, but is it Matt Bailey?
Matt Bailey.
Matt Bailey. And John, you helped me with
Scoutmaster.
that. And we had a nice talk a couple weeks ago. And he said, why don't you consider a community service day for Wenham in the spring? And he gave me lots of tips about when not to have it, so you jive with town meeting and other kinds of things. And I thought I would offer that to you tonight, because I have offered it to the committee as something we might organize, but we might need some help with the advertising. That's been suggested for May. I'm going to run over and then I'll stop, and you can ask questions if you have any or not. Okay? Housing action plan. Expand options for aging in place for seniors by providing information about affordable housing models and engage in advocacy forum as approved by town officials for policy change. And Wynn Dodge, Meredith Carlisle, our Gordon College intern to date, Francois Wilhelm, and Jim Reynolds are on that team. You can see the community stakeholders that I've listed now. I'm hoping even in a month or two that will be even more, including the town land use boards, Margaret Hoffman. The status, developing home sharing platform memo, ADU research is ongoing, and grant development with no local match. We're not going to ask for that to support grant writing by town officials, but it does take time and effort and also resources for Jackie, for example, Missy, Nikki, and maybe others that I don't know about to help us with those projects. Jackie already has in the works grants for the Tufts Health Foundation to provide a grant for us to help with these kinds of things. So we're hopeful that will be approved. We'll see. Social participation. Oh, the other piece for housing, the status, is consult with home sharing operations in the Outer Cape and New Hampshire regarding a business model and infrastructure about how to expand, if the powers that be are willing, appropriately expand housing options for folks other than what we have right now. So that's a discussion. That might be something in the winter, spring, and Wynn can say more about that at another point. But we are talking with folks in the Outer Cape who already have some of this expanded housing in their towns, and New Hampshire as well. And there's going to be a site visit, I believe, to one of those. Social participation, the action plan, neighborhood coffees and discussions about town issues. The way we thought we'd dovetail with that is that some of the trails that Missy is working on, asking us to map and maybe thinking about it, maybe we're not mapping them quite yet, are on private land. And so what we thought is we would have a neighborhood coffee near some of the trails with the folks who own the trails, own the land, and maybe have a social time, have some folks come who can maybe talk about the pros and cons, the benefits, the risks with that. But it would expand the town trails, possibly. And Wenham has been divided into 19 geographic grids, age 50 and over, and Jim and Francois have been helping with that. I don't have it here with me, but it has been already mapped. Team is Lou Beth Coomerly, Ann O'Shea, Tricia Tremblay, and Francois Wilhelm. Unfortunately, there was a coffee planned for this past Wednesday, but Ann had a mishap with George, who fell, and he's now recovering, but she had to cancel the coffee. I did speak with her directly twice this week, and he is coming along, and she hopes to reinstate the coffee. Communication and information, just quickly, action plan. Marty Lowry, by the way, is the team person, one and only. The action plan is to educate all residents and community stakeholders, which I've identified below, about mission of Wenham Connects and Dementia and Age-Friendly Task Force, build centralized information source, and create the resource guide that I had referred to earlier in my comments. Let's see, and Marty is here too, and Wynn is here if you need to ask them more specific questions. Community stakeholders, they're starting to be huge in that committee. Churches, the Bennett Balance Center, Anthony, of course, is on all of these, and you're on all of them, library, et cetera, et cetera. Nikki's on it. Okay. So we're creating the resource guide, and I think that is in action. The next domain is a community support and health services, the action plan, expand the social work capacity in Wenham. This is chaired by Marcia Ford, who's an ex officio member of our committee and has already done an awful lot of work and has her heart and soul into this domain. She does second Sundays at the Wenham Council on Aging, which have been very successful, as you may know. So her thinking and the committee's thinking, since she communicates with all of us at meetings, expand the social work capacity in Wenham, explore funding options with the Wenham Council on Aging, educate healthcare workers about Wenham Connects, and create a network, even a peer-to-peer program. And the stakeholders there, the Board of Health, Mary Beth Ting, Wenham WVIS, those are just WISH, WISSH. So she's starting to get out to those folks. She was at the flu clinic to talk about Wenham Connects. Status, promoted Wenham Connects at all the at the flu clinics. Tufts Health Plan Foundation grants. I guess it's between $2,000 and $60,000 that could possibly be awarded in support. We need your support for that, for the research and the writing, and that again is no matching funds. And Jackie is here, and she might say more about that if you're curious. Transportation. Sustain the MBTA, the ride in Wenham, and the COA van program, and Jim is a committee of one for that. We have, that is not an official domain that we've taken on to expand this year because we felt we had enough with what I've just told you, but it is in line to be supported if we're alive in future years. But we want to sustain what we already have. Civic participation and employment, that's another one that we did not take on to expand. The action plan is sustain the senior tax write-off program and Citizens Academy, which is already going, as you know. The team, the town clerk, Jackie Bresnahan, at least for two. And I think Jim Reynolds has done some active educating with some of the civic folks. And then the last committee is very important to me, the respect and social inclusion. Again, these last three were not three that we could grab a hold of along with the others, which we thought were extremely important for action, for seeing that we're doing something to help residents. But it's integrated, and this is official in our meetings, it's integrated respect and social inclusion in all the domains that are active. And I think from knowing the committee, that I've gotten to know, I can't imagine that that isn't already starting to be fulfilled. That there's a sense of respect for town officials and some of the stakeholders that these folks are working with.
That's good news.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that.
That's all I have to say.
Catherine?
I just, two comments, I guess. Thank you very much to you and your committee. Although you feel a bit constrained by time, when you look at it at this level, your committee has done a lot.
Thank you.
Is doing a lot and is on the way to completion of these things. So
We hope so.
thank you for that. And you know, I think it's fair to say that you have our support moving forward. I just had one small comment, one suggested addition to your community stakeholders in case you don't have enough. But, and we've talked about this before, but relative to the domain of housing,
Yes?
I would recommend that you add to the community stakeholders the Wenham Affordable Housing Trust.
Thank you.
We have just actually appointed to Affordable Housing Trust a member of Wenham Connects in Wynn. But also, I think that there's a lot of overlap.
Okay.
And so to be communicating and talking and making sure we're working together, I think would be really important on that.
Thank you. I have no reason to object to that.
Great job.
John?
Thank you. I know you had a bit of a challenge tracking me down, but you
John
succeeded.
Clemenzi is the hardest person to find on the face of the earth, but I found him.
But we kept trying to catch each other and kept missing each other.
No,
so-
he's in this industrial park in the back, and
Yeah.
thank you. We found each other.
Well, I spent about 45 minutes with Mariana maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and
Yeah.
learned a lot. I learned a lot more tonight, and that it's overwhelming, the amount of things you're doing, and that we need it, and thank you very much for all your effort.
Thank you.
And your committees. You have more committees, subcommittees than any other board I can think of. Active, too.
working.
That's right.
Very-
Yeah,
it's
trying to
exciting.
keep track of all of them.
Great job. She does. Thank you.
All right, you are very welcome.
Great.
Okay, we don't have to improve anything there, but okay. That's me. Review and potential approval of Police Benevolent Association 2020-2022 agreement. So I'm going to read the motion. We've already heard this in executive session previously, but, excuse me, move the Board of Selectmen approve the agreement between the Police Benevolent Association of Wenham, MCCP, Local 382, for those who want to take notes, and the Town of Wenham for the period July 1, 2019, obviously retroactive, to June 30, 2022. This was previously negotiated by our previous town administrator, twice removed, Peter Lombardi, and that, Anthony, you want to comment on this?
Sure. So that's correct. Peter did work on this as he was just about getting ready to exit here. And then the MOA was brought forward by the interim town administrator, John Petrin. So you approved the terms of the contract. So what this is getting that MOA and incorporated into the existing contract. So that's it. There's nothing new added, and it's the red line version there, just so you can see what was added.
Okay.
So I'll second the motion.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Set.
Aye, unanimous?
Aye.
Where's our, somebody doing that remotely, all right. Thank you. Okay, John, you're next. Accept and
Yes,
execute
sir.
the Municipal Energy Technical Assistance Grant Award Contract for DOER.
All right. I will read the motion first, and then we'll get a bit of an explanation, and I do have some questions about this myself.
Very important committee, this DOER committee. Okay.
I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the Municipal Technical Assistance Grant Award in the amount of $12,500 from the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, and authorize that the chair to execute the contract on behalf of the board. Now, open for discussion. I've got a question that sounds like an awful lot of money to have somebody come in and study your HVAC system. I mean, this is not a Beverly Hospital or, campus. This is one singular building. It's not money coming directly out of the taxpayer's pocket, which is good, or the taxpayers of this town's pocket, but it just seems expensive. So how do we come up with a number like that?
That's what it costs. That's what it costs, yep. It doesn't come cheap. They're engineers. Engineers get a lot of money an hour. But I think what this grant will do is it will hopefully add to what we've already done as far as our energy conservation at the library with the Green Communities grant that we just got. So we're going to save a pretty good amount of money with the by installing the LED lights. And this should also have similar controls that you see here in Town Hall from Johnson & Controls, and would be energy software and so forth that they'll probably recommend, and it can be controlled remotely, and so we're not just running heat and AC, just rampant. We can control those. So this is a great opportunity. I think it's just another great grant great job by Vicki Masson, who worked hard on this, and I think it's going to pay dividends.
Okay. I mean, I'm always in favor of grant.
Using the state's money?
Well, yes, it does. It does help the taxpayer in the town,
it does.
and hopefully benefits. And then the double benefit will be that we will have utility savings. Great. But at the same time, it just seems odd to me if they were coming in to study it and replace the controls for $12,000, I'd say, well, that's probably a pretty good deal. But just to study it and recommend, I have no more to say. That's out of my hands. Anybody else? Catherine, Jack?
Nope. I don't know.
This is a grant that we've already received.
We received.
And we're being asked tonight to accept it,
Correct.
because that's the process.
Correct.
I guess one last part of the question would be, did we go out to bid for this
I don't see a motion in here for that.
service?
Yeah, there is.
There is.
G.
I don't have an answer to that question. I think you.
Okay. I get it here. I give it
But
the
you don't have to go out to
Cliff
bid
Note
on
version here.
anything less than $50,000 anyways.
Okay.
It's
That's
John's
General Law, Chapter
motion anyway.
30B.
Right.
All right. All those in favor?
Well, we have to read the motion first. So move the Board of Selectmen accepting municipal...
I read the
Oh,
motion.
you did. I'm sorry,
Yeah, he
John.
did
Do we have a
I
second?
apologize.
That's okay. You weren't listening to
If
me.
I didn't, if it was a
Slap you,
second,
no.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Catherine.
All in favor? It's been-
Aye.
Aye. I get lost in your questions. All right. Discussion regarding potential town hall staff reorganization. Anthony?
Thank you again. So there's a memo here which outlines the reorganization, and basically, with Patty leaving, really had an opportunity to take a look at how we do business in the finance office as well as throughout town hall. So what, in a nutshell, what my recommendation to the board is to really switch the duties from finance director, treasurer, collector to be shared amongst the 4 positions that I listed in the memo, that being the treasurer, collector, the town accountant, finance director, which you kind of sort of approved earlier, depending on this discussion, and then creating the position, or really, I consider it recognizing the work that Jackie does and the duties that she does to assistant town administrator, and then also recognize the additional duties that the executive assistant to the town administrator is picking up. So, but the proposal, that I did a quick summary, or actually Jackie did a quick summary. Pass that down. So the proposal is cost neutral, which means there's no additional money being spent this fiscal year. It's just really getting the savings from Patty's position and separating it out and divvying up the duties to the other positions. So in your packet, there's the new job descriptions, there's the new salary charts, and this proposal here just kind of summarizes what I just gave you, summarizes what those, the before and after of what those pays will be. Happy to answer questions, or if you need further
Will you
explanation.
tell us a little bit more about the changes in job description, or the changes in the way things will be done under this new plan?
Sure. So one thing that we found out, and Patty really opened my eyes to this here, is that when the finance director position was with the treasurer collector, it's an awful lot of duties to be the finance director, the treasurer collector, really in charge of HR for us, and really with the staff that prior to this new assistant treasurer bringing that up to town hall hours was part-time. So that was just a tremendous amount of burden that was put on that position. And quite frankly, we found that it really, that much responsibility limited from doing one area really well that we needed. So Patty did a tremendous job, but that tremendous job came at the expense of her working nights, weekends, and
Holidays?
some holidays. So it was just, in my opinion, too much for that position. Most communities have the finance director falling within the town accountant's position. So this was an opportunity, and now going to the finance director, town accountant, that given an opportunity to Chris to now run that role and through this budget season, and then we can evaluate if Chris liked it, if it worked for the town. So Chris will pick up the supervisory duties and monitoring the budgets for the town. Jackie, as the assistant, would really be working on the budget document with the town administrator. So that duty comes back up to us, which Jackie was really doing a tremendous amount of that anyways. So, in my approach, which is different than what's going on, is I'm a team person. So our budget team consists of, this year, it's been me, Patty, Chris, and Jackie at every meeting. I think in the past, Pete has taken more of a role, and I think he needed to because there was some transition with new finance directors and so forth. So this really allows 4 people to understand the town's budget. So in the event that you have turnover, we're not starting from scratch. So they've done a tremendous job to date so far. We have a great team. I'd like to keep this team around, minus Patty. I already begged, but it didn't work. But I'd like to retain the rest of our staff, and I think that this proposal would do so, and I think it would be in Wenham's best interest for longevity purposes to have these folks in these positions.
Questions? Further questions, I should say.
Unfortunately, I didn't have the time this week to get through all of the material.
What were you doing, John?
I was visiting friends in the hospital.
Okay.
Are you indicating that we would not need a finance director?
No, Chris would be finance director / town accountant.
Okay.
It's just he wouldn't have all those duties that Patty currently has.
So
It's reducing it.
reducing the job description of the finance director's position,
Correct.
regardless of who does it.
Correct.
Chris is your
Interim.
recommendation.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Just spreading the workload around, John.
Yeah.
So,
basically.
John,
Yeah.
to amplify on that point, the finance director has fewer responsibilities therefore more able to do finance director and accountant and do it well. But can you elaborate on what we used to consider finance director responsibilities that would no longer be done? That would be switched, moved elsewhere?
Well,
Not
it's
no
just-
longer be done, they'll be done.
Again,
Moved elsewhere.
started, the finance director falling within the treasurer was just another extra duty. So now that's not having that HR portion of it.
Well, that's what I wanted you to expand on.
Yeah, so
because
Chris would be the supervisor overseeing the town treasurer, but it's the town treasurer's responsibility now to supervise the HR function. And the person that we hired actually has a pretty good background in payroll and benefits, which is going to be a tremendous asset to the town. So he doesn't have to directly deal with that
The
every
interim
day.
person you hired.
I'm sorry?
Interim?
No, the assistant treasurer. Did I say interim? Assistant
No, I
treasurer.
don't
So you didn't say interim.
So the assistant treasurer is going to take over some of the HR functions
Correct.
that are presently being handled by the finance director and
And the
whoever else
part-time-
that could possibly be called in.
Phil-
Is that-
Patty,
is
if I'm
that-
missing anything, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. The whole feel of moving the finance director to the town accountant is, first of all, I think there's more bandwidth in that position. It gets along a little bit better. I mean, he's where I came from, I was also the finance director and town accountant as well, and it was a much more fluid way to run it. I mean, I ran the budget, I did the budget, but it was easier to do it because you were living that day to day. In a town like this where the staff is so small, to be treasurer collector, and I guess I kind of look at it as more like a macro and a micro piece of the finance, but the accounting and the finance director being kind of that big picture, flowing where we're going, whereas we are in the weeds every single day with respect to payroll, HR, tax collections. I mean, you can't get any more in the weeds than we're in as a treasurer when you don't have a staff, and there's no staff. I mean,
A support staff,
A
meaning.
support staff, that's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
So,
In other words, so that you or your position could manage properly, you would need some support staff to support your,
I think with the
efforts.
support staff we would be having now, with the full-time position coming in,
Yeah.
with a treasurer collector who's not also finance director. I mean, I think one of the things I said to Anthony, which has been my biggest frustration, is that we're doing so much, or I'm doing so much in that office, that I feel like I'm not doing anything well. And that's frustrating for me. And especially where I feel like what's getting the shortest end of the stick is the budget and the plan and stuff, which is the stuff that I like. So I think Chris is excellent at it. Chris has done a lot of the monitoring. He would come and tell me when he saw departments that were coming. I mean, and he certainly, having worked with him in the year, I have no doubt that he will be able to certainly pick up, right where I left off and really run with it from there. And then to have just the treasurer collector be the treasurer collector overseeing the payroll, I just think it gives the whole department a little bit better flow to it. Again, there are other towns that have a finance director who's treasurer collector, but there's staff there. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
going back to where I'm going. I'm still managing treasurer and collection, but I have a staff of 4 people, so it's a little bit different.
We have historically had, most of my recollection is the model has been finance director, accountant, if there was a combination. So I think we're comfortable with the concept because we've had it. I'm going to dig a little bit more, though. I'm still interested to understand how the HR functions are going to change and be better, or easier, or more, whatever, more efficient.
Well, because a lot of it fell to the treasurer collector because we only had part-time staff. So now, by increasing that assistant treasurer to full-time staff, that takes the burden off of the treasurer collector to do more treasurer collector work and just overseeing that function.
So we expect the new person, and you've said her name and I've already forgotten it, the new person, say it again?
Sherry LeBlanc.
Sherry, to perform the HR function
And payroll.
and payroll.
Yeah.
Okay. Leaving the
It really does
treasurer
go together.
collector
I
to
mean,
do.
It's really a soup to nuts involvement. You're dealing with the vendors, you're dealing with the insurance folks, you're dealing with all the different people that we have to pay, you're dealing with tying things out, and to have someone just managing that process not in between doing a bunch of other things. I think it's better service for the employees. I think we, we'll be able to manage the payments coming through the office. We have a few times a year we're incredibly busy, but for a lot of it comes electronically. So I think it will be, without question, a smoother running office.
So Cheryl's position would be predominantly, I'm sorry?
Chevy?
Oh, Sherry, I'm sorry. Would be predominantly HR?
So she'll do payroll in HR.
Well, I've always considered payroll part of
Right.
HR.
And also collections. So she'll be working the front desk and taking in payments and posting the payments. But I would expect, the same way we do it now, that if we're very busy, I mean, there were times I would tell Christine, if you're busy, just drop me an email from my office, I'll come out and deal with the front desk.
Yeah.
The treasurer collector should still be able to process payments, should still be able to post a payment. I mean, there certainly needs to be some redundancy in that respect. And none of it is that difficult to do, but you have to stay on top of it. And that includes processing all of the electronic payments we get on a daily basis.
So the problem or the concern is quantity, not competency. So in other words, you feel you have the competency within this model that you're proposing, but there's just so much quantity there that you need the spread
The duties.
over more personnel. So you're redesigning the personnel department to better manage the needs that are becoming greater.
It just fits the workflow.
Yeah, and to me, in my mind, HR has always been a very big nag to us. We actually, this board, some years ago, looked into sharing human resources with Hamilton and with the school department, and figuring out how we could bring somebody in specific to just human resources and go that route. And it never came to anything because people didn't want to spend the time at it. So I'm just trying to understand that it is, or have you agree that it's a volume of work problem, not a competency of somebody just not being able to do it all or not capable of doing it all, or because HR can be pretty complicated too. Having managed a 50-person operation myself, every day was a new endeavor. Somebody else had another issue, another problem, and it could suck up a lot of time, and it was under the heading of personnel, or it even had to do with payroll, but, okay. All right, I hear what you're saying. Thank you.
So, continuing on just a little, we've talked a lot about finance, but the memo talks about, and I just want to make sure this is all sort of out in the open so we all understand it, an increase to the executive assistant's responsibilities. And maybe you can just elaborate on that.
Sure, so
We all know.
Nikki's also she's been doing a lot of IT stuff for the town. As you know, we don't have an IT director, as well as handling the insurance. And quite honestly, if we did a salary study of executive assistants, even with the proposed increase that I'm doing, she's still going to be below what she should be paid.
I think that's true for a lot of our employees, and I'll probably recommend at some point in time that we relook at that. It's a tough time to be thinking about that in this financial situation,
But it has to be looked at.
But we have always been on the low end of the
Yeah.
market
It's
rate.
certainly on our radar for after the first of the year. I've talked to Nikki about that.
So I just wanted to understand what that job function. And then, I guess lastly, the last position that you're talking about reorganizing has a new title, and I think we'll just put it out there, but what actually will be what will the person who's now Special Projects Permitting Coordinator do differently or more of, or what's been added with the role of Assistant Town Administrator?
Well, I like to look at that as I was an assistant in the community, and Jackie is doing exact same that I was doing in my prior community. So really, this is just recognizing the fact that Jackie's been doing this work and has been supporting several boards, working several nights, working several weekends, and doing the work of an assistant town administrator. Now, I'm not saying that Wenham should always have an assistant town administrator. I think right now, it fits the model. I think that Jackie's certainly somebody that I can see sitting in the town administrator's office here and for Wenham or another community. So this is a great opportunity for Wenham to do succession planning and not get into the situation where I think that, from my observation, where somebody leaves and we have to pick up some pieces. So to have that type of knowledge and history with Jackie is something that I don't think this community wants to lose. And quite frankly, if we don't do something like this, there's a lot of communities that have already inquired about taking Jackie, and there's people that have called me about that. And I certainly don't want to see Jackie leave. So this is really recognizing the duties that she's been performing here and for the town of Wenham.
I don't want anyone here or anywhere else to interpret my questions as non-support.
No, right.
I'm completely supportive of this, and more supportive the more I hear. But I think it's important for everyone to really understand, because we're going to be asked some questions as time goes on.
Yep.
And I have a few more very detailed ones, which I'll spare you, Jack.
But
that
just as
I'll
I mentioned,
talk to-
me.
I know that, you know,
just I
I'm
know
tired
that
of
we've
my questions.
spoken, you know,
You have.
and
You've been very helpful, I appreciate it.
And, you know, kudos to all the department heads. I think they all do a tremendous job. But really, I consider there's a nucleus. And that's your nucleus right there.
Right.
And when stuff needs to get done in town, that's who gets it done right there, those people sitting there. So this is really recognizing the nucleus and really, I think, securing Wenham's future.
I think when we talked about it, that statement, to me, was the most persuasive, because it's resonated clearly with me. So, as I said, I still have a few detailed questions, but very supportive of the concept.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all. That's all I've got on
Yeah,
this,
I'm
Jack.
looking to see if there's a motion here.
Nope, there isn't.
You know, we
Discussion
didn't have a
only.
motion, but
I think I'd like an opportunity to talk to a couple people and ask a few more questions.
that's fine. We can bring it back on the 19th with a
Yeah.
formal
Motion so far.
motion.
Yeah, right. I think
Okay.
that would be.
We can do that.
Yep.
That would
I
be-
had
that is-
several questions, I got them answered already.
Yeah.
All right, the section I, I'm going to take over this for a second, Catherine.
Go right ahead. You can take it over completely if you'd like.
Yeah, I
You'll know
don't know if you like my outcome or not, but, so going over this presentation, we're supposed to get out of here in 20 minutes. This is at least an hour conversation, if not an hour and a half conversation by itself. And that, looking at there's a lot of weighty issues here. Some of these aren't not a lot of money, but there could be controversial, and that I think we really should have the Finance Committee here as well for some of these, because they're making budget assumptions for next year.
Back if I can. Just, excuse me, Finance Committee's meeting tomorrow, and I'll be presenting this to them, just,
So what are you proposing, Jack? I think I know where you're going with this, and I might agree with you, but
We have a separate meeting on this issue. This is too weighty, too much, we can't just truncate this in the next 15 minutes. This is ridiculous, looking at, these slides, and some of these things, even though they're not a lot of money, trash, for example, that could take an hour right there, and that, or anything else. So I'm suggesting we have a separate meeting, and the FinCon could come, or, invite them to come, even though they're having it tomorrow night. And I'd like to hear their thoughts on this after they meet tomorrow night. That we schedule a separate meeting on this agenda item just for this agenda item. Because this is a whole meeting in itself.
Yeah, maybe-
And I can't, as a chairman, I can't just move this thing along without insulting my colleagues here and say, it's enough. And that, because some of these require a lot of discussion and probative questions. And that's how I'm moving that we pass over it for tonight.
when you say a separate meeting, I guess I agree with you. But I think my only concern is, and I bet Anthony's thinking this, and everyone in the room is, that we have to begin this discussion relatively soon.
Yeah,
So
So after the 19th, that,
Yeah, early December. We have back-to-back meetings in December.
you want to try to squeeze it in before Thanksgiving? Because I think December might be a little tough because it is back-to-back meetings and then you got holiday parties and so forth.
Holiday parties, we'll cancel those and,
No
just kidding,
holidays.
just kidding.
The Grinch.
This can't be done, and we have 20 minutes left in this, for our scheduled 8 PM. No, so that, I don't want to push my colleagues along, so let's, come on, moving along. A lot of these things require a lot of discussion. Some of these are political, some of these are financial. I just brought one up, trash fees, and that some of these others are pretty easy, okay, marriage licenses, this and the other thing, from $20 to $25, whatever, that's, unless you're getting married next week or next month, you're not going to care about $5 anyway. If you're in law, $5, who cares about $5 for a marriage license, I hope, right? And that, so anyway, why don't you look at the calendar, and we don't have to do it tonight, but schedule yet another meeting, just this.
And looking at the calendar, I think it's possible, and to your point, Anthony, would have to look at and propose some dates, but I think it might be possible to squeeze something in the week of the 18th of November, so before the holiday, but that's going to be up to people's availability.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
saying. After that, I think
It's like the.
But this is a whole meeting. I mean,
it is. It's
It's a whole meeting.
And it's
Like-
really important stuff that we
Like the
should.
21st, just as an idea?
Yeah, Thursday night.
I don't want to commit to anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to go home and look at my calendar, but, I was looking at this, it's way too much for,
If you want to give thoughtful process to it, absolutely. This is
Well,
not, it's
that's-
not a quick decision.
some of these are, I'm not going to, if I give an example,
Right.
well, we're going to
just
talk
have
for
to
that for the
discuss
next 10 minutes, so that, because I have some concerns about some of the, anyway.
So you'll get back to us.
Right, within the next
the
couple of days.
earliest potential dates that we could.
Yeah.
And I agree that at some point we have to interconnect with the Finance Committee. Ultimately, policy decisions we're going to have to make, but to get input from the Finance Committee.
Well, several of these are just our call and our call alone, but nevertheless, you'd like to have the Finance Committee say, yeah, good idea, we support that, and that, and a couple of these are, fees to Pleasant Pond, not going to get involved with that. But some of the other revenue assumptions, there are budgeting in here, which we previously had heard in a presentation maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, are cast in this presentation.
Right.
Use of free cash, for example, that makes me quite nervous to go from 750 to 0.
Right. There are a lot of discussion.
That's a biggie. You could talk about that for another half an hour by itself.
I know I could.
And well, the FinCom would also, that's something, the trash fees or maybe the Pleasant Pond stickers is one thing. That's ours. But, going from 750 to 0 for free cash to the budget, that's definitely a FinCom. They need to.
So the expectation at their meeting tomorrow is that you're planning on reviewing this information with them?
Yes.
So it'll turn out that they get the presentation first, whatever.
I'd be very interested
We're
in.
not,
We get it.
just, we're not looking for a commitment on 0 free cash for the operating budget right now. That was just kind of a summary of when we were talking about revenue in the last presentation.
Well, maybe
so-
nervous.
Yeah, but it's not, we're not saying, because we don't even know what, we're working on,
attention.
we're working on.
Got my attention, that's right. So have the Finance Committee, is this being televised by tomorrow night?
Tomorrow.
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
No, that's too bad. Can we get it televised?
School committee tomorrow night.
Who cares? No, I'm sorry.
Recorded? Can it be recorded?
I
You don't have staff? Or you don't? Okay.
All right,
It's hard.
yeah. Well, you have to give us I would like you to send us 3 selectmen here, your summary of what the FinCom was in favor of, what they didn't have any particular questions about, and what things that they had reservations over, since we can't hear the dialogue. And that, or maybe we can invite Alex to come to the rescheduled meeting.
That's a really
so he
good
can
idea.
summarize himself and say, okay, this is, the FinCom had no opinion on this, we're in general in favor of that, we had no, whatever, so that.
That's a good point, Jack. I think
So, I mean, I'd like to have his and their opinion So that would be, I don't need the memo, he can come in and,
You can do it, yep.
yeah, he can do it.
Yep.
Which would be basically at the beginning of the meeting we're going to schedule for this separate meeting on this subject.
That's fine.
So, okay.
So, gosh, all of a sudden, my iPad got blank. Or there's
Oh, that's
anything-
too bad.
I don't think there's anything. I don't know if there's anything, just the,
Other matters, Jay, there's no other matters, and that, so I move that we adjourn.
second.
John? Say yes, John.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye, aye.
Aye, aye.
That's 7:46.